Welcome to 11 Recaps. If you enjoy this summary, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. It really helps me keep bringing you engaging content. Ready for your support? Awesome, thank you. Let's dive in. In the opening scene of the film, we find a girl named Raza who has been hiding in a cave for 2 days. From her concealed spot, she witnesses a plane touch down at the airport and the president disembarks. Without a moment's hesitation, she takes aim with her sniper rifle and pulls the trigger. Afterward, she collects the bullet casing, keeping it as a memento. Meanwhile, a boy named Levi is engrossed in writing a poem in his notebook when he receives a summons to report to a military base. He quickly departs and arrives at a sprawling military installation, where he encounters an officer named Bat. The officer probes into his history, noting that both his father and grandfather served as Marine snipers, just like him. She inquires if the rumors about him having killed 200 people are accurate. Levi responds nonchalantly, stating that his count is actually much higher. Following his retirement, Levi took on private contracts but currently has no commitments. Although he remains willing to collaborate with the Marines, he declines any offers, as a military psychologist has deemed him unfit for service. He leads a solitary life without a girlfriend, family, or anyone to care for him. Levi steers clear of all substances, aware that they could impair his precision. He could have contested the psychologist's ruling, but he finds no reason to do so, nor does he see much purpose in anything else. On the flip side, Raza reunites with her father, Will, and informs him that she has completed her mission. Will beams with pride as she presents him with the bullet casing. She confesses that the memory of the shot continues to haunt her, weighing heavily on her heart. Will comforts her, explaining that he always takes the bullet casing from her to help her move on. She then reveals her plans for another mission that will last a year, promising to return afterward. Will nods in understanding, fully aware of her commitment. They exchanged a fleeting moment before going their separate ways. The following day, Levi boards a plane, preparing for his mission. He leaps from the aircraft, parachuting into a thick forest. After a 6-hour trek, he arrives at his destination, where he encounters a man named JD. The man expresses his relief at Levi's arrival after a year of solitude. Together, they proceed toward a towering structure. JD informs Levi that the tower is fully equipped, and he will be stationed there for the upcoming year. As Levi gazes at another tower in the distance, JD mentions that another guard is assigned there, performing the same duties. However, he emphasizes that Levi is not permitted to communicate with this other individual. His sole responsibility is to monitor his designated area. Levi inquired about what lay beneath them. JD responded that the location was referred to as the Door of Hell, a deep chasm where numerous monsters were confined. This was the reason it had been under surveillance for many years. Each week, they were required to report to the company via radio to confirm their safety. Supplies, including food and weaponry, would be delivered. However, it was essential to inspect the weapons every 2 days. In the event of a monster escape, immediate action was necessary to eliminate the threat. Intrigued, Levi asked how JD was aware of all this information. JD explained that the previous guard had shared it with him, and that this operation had been ongoing for many years. The site was a closely guarded secret, so well concealed that even presidents were oblivious to its existence. Signal jammers had been installed to prevent any transmissions from leaking, ensuring the location remained completely undetected. Beneath the trench, additional jammers were in place, and if they were compromised, the entire facility would collapse within 2 minutes. The trench, known as Gazka, needed to be safeguarded and kept hidden for an entire year. Levi absorbed all the information, and JD guided him through the weapons and security protocols. The following day, JD was extracted by helicopter. His identity was confirmed, yet shortly thereafter, he faced execution. The news of his demise reached Bat. Meanwhile, Levi remained at the tower, diligently monitoring all systems. Each day, he conducted thorough inspections of the jammers and weapons, ensuring their proper functionality. Levi maintained radio communication with the company, though their discussions were strictly work-related. One day, while surveying the adjacent tower, he observed something peculiar. The walls of the tower bore the names and reflections of previous watchers, all of whom had been ex-Marine officers like himself. This operation had been ongoing since 1940, with a rotation of new officers. During one of his area checks, Levi noticed an individual standing in the distance. A voice emanated from the opposite tower, revealing the presence of a girl stationed there. She appeared to notice him as well. That night, Levi awoke from a troubling dream, his heart pounding. He glanced outside and noticed the lights illuminated in the other tower. Using his binoculars, he focused on the girl, who was alone, much like himself. She seemed equally bored. 2 weeks later, Raza was celebrating her birthday. Spotting Levi in the distance, she decided to initiate communication. She penned a message on a piece of paper. Levi observed that Raza had inquired about his name and mentioned her birthday. She also stated that for one night, she would disregard the rules and act freely. A surge of excitement coursed through Levi as he quickly replied with his name, and the two became engrossed in the moment. Feeling the effects of the occasion, Raza began to sing and dance, encouraging Levi to join her. He hesitated, confessing his lack of dancing skills. In response, she shattered a bottle and challenged him to demonstrate his shooting abilities. Levi complied with the request, but as Raza, still under the influence, entered his field of vision, he promptly lowered his weapon. In that moment, Raza became motionless, fixated on the trench below. Something was emerging. Levi followed her gaze and witnessed grotesque creatures ascending from the abyss. These beings, a disturbing blend of human and monster, crawled forth from the shadows. Without a moment's hesitation, Levi opened fire. Yet, the creatures continued to advance. A tremendous explosion from a nearby mine propelled even more of them to the surface. Aware of their overwhelming numbers, both Levi and Raza fought valiantly, utilizing every available weapon. Amidst the turmoil, a creature breached her tower. She narrowly succeeded in dispatching it, but soon found herself surrounded by additional foes. Recognizing the peril, Levi seized a machine gun and unleashed a barrage of bullets upon the creatures besieging Raza's tower. At that moment, another explosion reverberated through the area, injuring Raza. Levi persisted in his assault, determined to prevent any monster from approaching. As the onslaught continued, the automated defense systems finally engaged, delivering a relentless barrage from above. The night transformed into a battlefield as the machines executed their unyielding attack, eliminating the creatures one by one. Exhausted and in pain, Raza eventually collapsed, overwhelmed by the carnage. When morning arrived, she regained consciousness and began to tend to her injuries. With a faint smile, she remarked, "That was the best birthday I've ever had." Levi, who had remained vigilant throughout the night, erupted into laughter at the absurdity of the situation. A few hours later, he descended to repair the jammers and reinforce the trench barriers to fend off the monsters. Now fully alert, Raza kept a watchful eye on him with her sniper rifle, prepared to provide cover if necessary. As time passed, December arrived, bringing with it heavy snowfall. Restless from the solitude, Raza gazed out at the white expanse when she noticed something peculiar. Outside, Levi had arranged a Christmas tree for them. A sense of warmth enveloped her as she smiled for the first time in quite a while. That evening, they celebrated together, crafting snowmen for one another. As the days passed, they discovered various ways to occupy their time, engaging in chess matches, sharing tales, and gradually drawing closer, despite the physical separation of their towers. 2 months later, February arrived, bringing with it a wave of relentless nightmares. The sounds of monsters reverberating from the trench tormented Levi, rendering sleep elusive. One frigid night, he ventured outside, only to find Raza sitting alone, appearing more despondent than ever. She finally expressed, "I feel so alone. I wish you were here with me." Upon hearing her words, Levi resolved to bridge the gap between them. However, traversing the distance between their towers would prove nearly impossible. The following day, Levi retrieved a bazooka missile from their arsenal, extracted all the gunpowder, and secured it with a rope. Raza observed as Levi launched the grenade from the bazooka, sending the missile soaring to the other side, where it became lodged in a tree. Raza swiftly extinguished the flames and tightened the rope. A few hours later, Levi returned, planning to cross by hanging from the rope. Unfortunately, the tautness of the rope caused him to become stuck midway, necessitating that he use his hands to maneuver across. Upon reaching the other side, the rope greeted him, and they shared an awkward moment. Raza then mentioned that she had prepared rabbit pie for dinner, to which Levi complimented her green eyes, remarking on their beauty. Raza suggested he take a bath, noting that he had been sweating profusely. Afterward, Levi emerged from the bath, only to discover that his clothes had been placed out of reach. He walked over without attire, and when Raza spotted him through the camera, she laughed. Later, they dined together and exchanged stories about their experiences as snipers. Levi chuckled and mentioned that he was also preoccupied with various thoughts, such as the authenticity of their surroundings and the nature of the creatures they encountered. Raza revealed that her previous partner, a sniper, had influenced her feelings towards him, although she always experienced sorrow when taking lives. He had advised her to avoid dwelling on her emotions and concentrate solely on her duties. Levi expressed a similar perspective, yet he admitted that he could never erase the memory of his first kill, a woman whose aspirations continued to haunt him. He acknowledged that his sense of isolation was the reason for his presence in this place. That evening, they retreated indoors and began to dance together. Raza praised Levi, stating that he was not an inept dancer. Levi responded with a hint of uncertainty, suggesting it might be true. They then shared a kiss, drawing closer to one another. By the following morning, both felt a profound happiness in each other's company. As Levi prepared to leave, they exchanged another kiss before he set off. However, an explosion from the mines caused the rope to snap, resulting in Levi plummeting into the gorge while still strapped into his parachute. Raza, resolute in her determination to follow him, seized the gun and parachute before leaping into the gorge herself. She managed to deploy the parachute just in time, landing in the water. Despite the powerful current, she skillfully navigated her descent. Meanwhile, Levi found himself clinging to a tree when he spotted a monster approaching. He fired his pistol, successfully killing it. Yet, another monster emerged from beneath the tree and seized him. Raza arrived just in time, shooting the creature and liberating him. Levi, taken aback, inquired if she had truly followed him all this way. Raza simply responded that he would have done the same for her. As they pressed onward, they were ambushed by monsters mounted on horses. Initially taken aback, they quickly regrouped and fought back. One monster fled, and Levi noticed their uniforms, realizing they were officers from the 1940s. This revelation led him to suspect that this location must have been established after 1940, with the soldiers having transformed into monsters. They continued their journey and stumbled upon a desolate, ruined city. In search of refuge from the monsters, they entered a church, where they discovered numerous lifeless bodies. The markings on their hands suggested that the individuals had taken their own lives, though the reasons remained unclear to them. At that moment, they were ambushed by monstrous creatures resembling spiders. They retaliated with great intensity, but additional foes emerged, compelling them to fight their way to safety, ultimately creating an explosion to facilitate their escape. As they hurried away, they stumbled upon a concealed door beneath the mountain. Without a moment's pause, they ventured inside. They soon realized they had entered a laboratory, and as they progressed further, they observed numerous scientists engaged in experiments, oblivious to the fatalities occurring around them. Raza spotted a generator and opted to activate it, which triggered a video presentation. A scientist named Maya appeared on the screen, detailing that the footage dated back to 1946, during Robert Oppenheimer's efforts to develop the atomic bomb for the United States. Concurrently, they were assigned the task of creating biochemical weapons. Their endeavors were successful, but an earthquake struck, obliterating their weapons and releasing a noxious gas into the atmosphere. This event led to the mutation of humans, animals, and plants into monstrous forms. Acknowledging the peril, they had sealed the laboratory. Leva and Raza finally grasped the rationale behind the government's concealment of this facility. Leva asserted the necessity of finding an escape route. They then uncovered an antiquated computer from the year 2000, associated with a military firm named Turk Lake, which had contributed to their predicament. It soon became evident that another organization, Dark Lake, had previously dispatched individuals to this laboratory. As they explored the computer's files, they discovered that Dark Lake had been conducting experiments on many of the Drasas in an attempt to engineer super soldiers. They also learned that in 1940, the site was slated for destruction by a nuclear missile, which, for reasons unknown, was never launched. After the laboratory was secured with GMR, the missile remained in place. However, with the destruction of GMR, the missile would obliterate the entire gorge, ensuring that the truth would never escape to the outside world. Leva then examined the data regarding the monsters, discovering that the nuclear bomb's impact would extend up to 4.2 kilometers, a crucial detail to remember. As Leva and Raza prepared to depart, Leva expressed, "If I cannot escape with you, Please know that I cherished our time together." They shared a kiss before resuming their flight. Leva added, "If anyone else arrives here, they must have left a means of ascent." They pressed onward, seeking an exit. Suddenly, the horse-riding monsters ensnared Raza with a rope and began to drag her away. Leva pursued them and soon discovered that the creature had taken Raza to a lower level, where it subjected her to torment. The monster attempted to end her life, but Raza fought valiantly and managed to break free. They engaged in a fierce struggle, but the monster hurled Raza aside and was poised to deliver a lethal strike. Just in time, Leva intervened and dispatched the creature. Both Leva and Raza experienced profound relief and joy at being reunited. Leva recognized that this monster was the same one that had served as the initial sentinel to guard the tower back in the 1940s. Together, Leva and Raza continued their ascent, passing a colossal tree adorned with countless dormant monsters. Proceeding with caution, they aimed to avoid disturbing the creatures. However, Raza inadvertently stepped on one, causing it to awaken. The monster seized Raza, prompting Leva to launch an attack, but this action roused the remaining monsters, who began to encircle them. In a state of panic, they triggered a massive explosion that annihilated all the monsters in the vicinity, allowing them to continue their climb. They soon discovered a garage filled with vehicles designed to assist them in ascending the mountain. Leva deduced that ropes had been installed from the tower to facilitate the lifting of the vehicles. The two individuals entered a truck, and as they approached the hill, they were pursued by monsters. The operators managing the ropes engaged the creatures, eliminating several of them, and subsequently secured the truck to a rope, gradually hoisting it up the incline. After several hours, they had ascended to a significant height, but soon the monsters began to scale the rope in pursuit. Leva and Raza mounted a vigorous defense, dispatching numerous monsters. Leva then soaked them in gasoline and ignited an explosion, causing the remaining creatures to plummet down the hill. As they continued their ascent, suspended from the vehicle, they ultimately reached a higher elevation. Once they felt they were at a safe distance, they severed the rope, resulting in the truck's descent. After a few additional hours of climbing, they arrived at the tower, both deeply unsettled by the revelations they had encountered. Raza then proposed we should flee from this place. "I know of a location in France where we can remain hidden." Raza concurred with Leva's suggestion, recognizing that if they were affected by the mutations, they would transform into monsters within 5 days. They resolved to wait and determine if they were immune. If not, they would escape. As they prepared to part ways, Leva admitted, "I love you," to which Raza responded, "I love you too." The following day, Leva contacted Bat via radio. Bat inquired about their well-being, and Leva assured her that all was well. Bat informed Leva that the computer in the tower below had been activated, to which Leva denied any intention of going there. Bat insisted that the watchman of the tower must have descended and asserted that they would never compromise their research. The next day, while Leva and Raza were examining some machinery, they noticed a helicopter approaching, an unusual occurrence. They hastily escaped, while Bat observed from the tower, commanding drones to locate and eliminate them. Leva and Raza utilized their sniper rifles to take down the drones. As they ascended, Leva caught sight of Bat in the tower. He set explosives to eliminate the approaching guards, systematically taking them out. Bat soon realized her plans were unraveling and resolved to destroy the location to prevent any truths from surfacing. She activated a nuclear device that would obliterate the area in 2 minutes and fled towards the helicopter, aiming for a distance of 4.2 kilometers from the blast zone. They reached a safe distance, and just as they were escaping, the missile was launched, resulting in a tremendous explosion in the gorge. The blast impacted the helicopter and Bat, while Leva was unable to escape in time. He was engulfed by the explosion and plunged into the water, sinking into the depths. Raza, having successfully made it 4.2 kilometers away, witnessed the explosion and sought refuge in a cave for 5 days. She soon discovered that she had not been affected by the mutations. Subsequently, Raza journeyed to France, hoping to find Leva, but he was not there. Instead, she discovered a letter from him, in which he had completed a poem for her. Heartbroken over Leva's absence, Raza took a job as a waitress in a restaurant. To her astonishment, she encountered Leva there. He ordered a rabbit leg, and they shared a joyful reunion, reminiscent of their initial meeting. Leva explained that he had needed time to recover from his previous job, but now he wished to collaborate with her. Raza mentioned that the chef's position was available in the kitchen, and they shared a kiss, concluding the beautiful story with a sense of new beginnings. Thank you for watching.